Walk into any professional kitchen and you'll notice something interesting pretty quickly. Chefs aren't reaching for fancy gadgets or flashy appliances most of the time. They're reaching for a handful of unglamorous, almost boring-looking tools, over and over, dozens of times during a single shift. These are the tools that never make it onto flashy cookware displays or gift guides, but they're the ones actually doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes in real professional kitchens. Most home cooks have never even heard of some of these, let alone own one. Yet they're exactly what separates fast, clean, consistent professional cooking from the slower, messier version most of us do at home. Number 9. Butane Kitchen Torch. A tool most home cooks assume is only for finishing creme brulee, when in reality, it's one of the most frequently used tools on any professional line for reasons that have nothing to do with dessert. A handheld torch gives a chef instant, direct, highly controllable heat exactly where they need it, without waiting for a broiler to preheat or risking uneven results from an oven's ambient heat. That precision is exactly why chefs use it to quickly char the skin on a piece of fish or the top of a gratin, blister peppers and tomatoes for peeling, or add a final deep sear to a scallop or steak that's already been cooked through, giving it that last bit of caramelized color without overcooking the inside. It's also genuinely essential for meringue-topped dishes, baked Alaska, and toasted marshmallow garnishes, where broiling risks melting or burning the base before the top browns properly, while a torch lets you target just the surface in seconds. Beyond finishing techniques, a torch is a quiet workhorse for smaller, practical tasks throughout service, like quickly warming the rim of a plate, loosening a stubborn label on a bottle, or gently softening butter or chocolate for a specific texture without turning on an oven or microwave for a tiny amount. Professional kitchens typically use a refillable butane torch rather than the small disposable culinary torches sold for home use, since the larger fuel tank and stronger flame burn hotter and last significantly longer during a busy shift without needing constant refilling. The flame itself can usually be adjusted from a soft, widespread for gentle browning to a narrow, intense jet for fast, concentrated searing, giving chefs real control depending on exactly what they're finishing. It's also remarkably safe and simple to use once you understand basic fire safety, since the flame is contained and directional rather than open and unpredictable. Number 8. Squeeze bottles. If there's one visual detail that instantly signals a professional kitchen versus a home one, it's a row of labeled squeeze bottles lined up along the line, each filled with a different sauce, oil, or condiment. The appeal isn't just aesthetic. Squeeze bottles give a cook precise, consistent control over portioning that a spoon or ladle simply can't match, letting them drizzle an exact thin line of balsamic reduction across a plate, that a sauce in a specific decorative pattern, or apply just a few drops of chili oil without any risk of overpouring and ruining a plate's presentation. That control matters enormously in a professional setting where dozens or hundreds of the same dish need to go out looking identical, plate after plate, throughout a busy service, and eyeballing a pour from a ladle introduces exactly the kind of inconsistency that a squeeze bottle eliminates entirely. Beyond plating, squeeze bottles are also genuinely useful for storage and organization, since clear or labeled bottles let cooks keep frequently used liquids like vinaigrettes, marinades, or infused oils within immediate reach on the line, ready to grab and use in seconds rather than digging through a wok in cooler mid-service. The narrow tip design also reduces mess significantly compared to pouring directly from a jar or bottle, since it delivers a controlled stream rather than an unpredictable splash, which matters when you're working quickly under pressure and can't afford to wipe down a station constantly. Many chefs use different tip sizes for different applications, a fine tip for delicate decorative work like sauce dots or thin lines, and a wider tip for faster, heavier applications like coating a pan with oil. Cleaning and refilling is simple, and because the bottles are typically made from food-safe, squeezable plastic, they hold up well to repeated daily use without cracking or degrading. Number 7. Kitchen shears. A tool that home cooks often own but rarely use for anything beyond opening a stubborn bag of chips, while professional chefs treat them as a genuine everyday cutting tool nearly as essential as a knife. Good kitchen shears are built with heavy-duty, often spring-loaded blades specifically designed to handle tasks that would be slow, awkward, or even dangerous with a standard knife. Breaking down a whole chicken is one of the clearest examples, since cutting through the small rib bones and joints with a knife requires careful, sometimes risky maneuvering, while a solid pair of shears can snip through that same bone structure quickly and safely, cutting prep time down significantly without sacrificing precision. Shears are also the tool of choice for cutting herbs like chives directly into a dish, since snipping preserves more of the delicate flavor and structure compared to bruising them under a knife blade, and for trimming silver skin or excess fat-off cuts of meat, where a flexible cutting angle matters more than raw sharpness. Many professional-grade shears feature a built-in bottle opener, a small notch for cracking nuts, or a separating mechanism that lets the two blades come fully apart for a much more thorough cleaning, which matters enormously in a professional kitchen where sanitation standards are strict and equipment gets used dozens of times per shift. Beyond meat and herbs, shears make quick work of opening vacuum-sealed bags, trimming pizza or flatbread into portions, cutting parchment paper to fit a specific pan size, and snipping dried herbs, seaweed, or dried chilies into smaller pieces for a recipe. Because the blades are typically made from thick, high-quality stainless steel, they hold up to far more abuse than a flimsy pair of household scissors, cutting through cartilage and small bones repeatedly without dulling or bending out of shape. Number 6. Whetstone Sharpening Stone. A flat sharpening stone that might be the single most important piece of equipment professional chefs own that almost no home cook actually uses correctly, or at all. Every other tool on this list works better with a sharp knife behind it. And the harsh truth is that most home cooks are working with knives that are far duller than they realize, since a knife loses its edge gradually through regular use, long before it becomes obviously dull to the touch. Professional chefs sharpen their knives regularly, often multiple times a week, using a whetstone rather than relying on pull-through sharpeners or honing steels alone, because a whetstone actually removes a small amount of metal to create a genuinely new, precise edge, rather than just realigning an existing one the way a honing steel does. The process involves running the blade across the stone surface at a consistent angle, usually somewhere between 15 and 20 degrees depending on the knife, repeating the motion evenly along the entire length of the blade on both sides until a fresh, sharp edge forms. Most professional-grade whetstones offer two different grits on opposite sides, a coarser grit for repairing a genuinely dull or damaged edge, and a finer grit for polishing and refining that edge into something razor-sharp. And serious cooks often own multiple stones spanning an even wider range of grits for different levels of maintenance. The technique does require practice to master, since maintaining a consistent angle throughout the entire sharpening motion is genuinely difficult at first, which is exactly why so many home cooks avoid it, and instead rely on faster, but far less effective pull-through sharpeners that tend to grind away more metal than necessary while producing an inconsistent edge. A properly maintained knife sharpened on a whetstone cuts with dramatically less pressure and effort, which not only makes prep work faster but genuinely safer, since a sharp blade is far more predictable and controllable than a dull one that requires force and is prone to slipping. Number 5. Offset Spatula. A thin metal tool with a distinctive step-down bend near the handle. And while it's technically associated with baking and cake decorating, professional savory chefs use it constantly for tasks that have nothing to do with frosting. That offset bend is the entire point of the design, since it lifts the handle up and away from the blade, keeping your hand elevated above whatever you're working with rather than dragging it directly through hot pans, delicate plating, or sticky surfaces. On a professional line, that design makes it genuinely ideal for precise plating work, letting a chef gently lift and place a delicate component, like a piece of fish or a slice of tranche, onto a plate without smudging the surrounding sauce or garnish, since the thin, flexible blade slides underneath cleanly and the offset handle keeps fingers safely out of the way. It's also a favorite for spreading thin, even layers of sauce, compound butter, or puree directly onto a plate in a controlled, deliberate swipe, a common professional plating technique that's nearly impossible to replicate cleanly with the back of a spoon. Beyond plating, the thin blade is genuinely useful for loosening baked goods from the edges of a pan, lifting delicate items like fish fillets or eggs without breaking them, and scraping the last bit of batter or filling cleanly out of a mixing bowl thanks to its flexible, slightly rounded tip. Professional kitchens typically stock offset spatulas in a few different lengths, a small one for detailed, close plating work, and a longer one for spreading across larger sheet pans or cakes, giving cooks the right tool for the right scale of task. Because the blade is thin, flexible stainless steel rather than rigid plastic, it responds naturally to the contours of whatever it's touching, bending slightly to follow curved surfaces rather than fighting against them. It's a tool most home cooks only encounter if they've done cake decorating, but on a professional line it gets used constantly across savory dishes, plating, and prep work throughout an entire shift, which is exactly why it's one of the more surprising, secretly essential tools chefs rely on daily. Number 4. Labeled deli containers. Labeled deli containers, the stackable clear plastic containers with snap-on lids seen in every walk-in cooler in every professional kitchen. It sounds like simple storage, but the system built around these containers is a genuinely core part of how professional kitchens stay organized, safe, and fast under pressure, and it's a habit almost no home kitchen replicates. Every single container gets labeled with painter's tape and a permanent marker, listing exactly what's inside and the date it was prepped, which sounds obvious but solves a real, constant problem. Knowing at a glance exactly what you're working with and how fresh it is, without opening a dozen containers or guessing based on appearance alone. That labeling discipline is directly tied to food safety, since professional kitchens operate under strict health code requirements around how long prepped ingredients can safely be stored. And a clear date label lets any cook on the team instantly identify what needs to be used first, preventing waste and preventing anything from sitting in the cooler past its safe window. Beyond safety, the containers themselves are specifically chosen for their stackability. Since their flat, uniform shape lets kitchens maximize extremely limited cooler space, fitting dozens of prepped ingredients into a fraction of the space that mismatched jars, bowls, and bags would require. The clear plastic also means cooks can visually scan an entire shelf and immediately spot what they need without pulling out and opening multiple containers, which saves real time during a fast-paced service when every second matters. Many kitchens organize their entire mise en place, meaning all the prepped and portioned ingredients ready for service, using this exact container system, with everything measured, labeled, and positioned in a specific, memorized order so a cook can grab exactly what they need without thinking or searching. It's a genuinely simple system, just containers, tape, and a marker, but the discipline and consistency it enforces is exactly why professional kitchens run so much smoother and safer than a typical home kitchen, where prepped ingredients often sit unlabeled and forgotten at the back of the fridge. Number 3. Immersion blender. Sometimes called a stick blender, a genuinely underrated tool that professional chefs reach for constantly, while most home cooks default to a full-sized countertop blender instead, often to their own disadvantage. The core advantage of an immersion blender is right there in the name. It blends directly inside whatever pot, pitcher, or container the food already occupies, meaning you can puree a hot soup directly in the pot it was cooked in, without ever transferring scalding liquid into a separate blender jar, a step that's not only slow and messy, but genuinely dangerous, since hot liquid can build pressure and violently erupt out of a sealed blender jar if not handled carefully. That single advantage alone is exactly why professional kitchens rely on immersion blenders for soups, sauces, and purees far more often than countertop blenders, since it eliminates an entire risky, time-consuming transfer step, while also meaning there's only one pot to clean afterward instead of a pot and a blender jar both needing to be washed. Beyond soups, an immersion blender is genuinely excellent for emulsifying vinaigrettes and mayonnaise, since the powerful, fast-spinning blade at the tip creates enough force to properly combine oil and an acidic liquid into a stable, smooth emulsion in seconds, a task that's notoriously fussy to do well by hand with a whisk. Many professional-grade immersion blenders also come with interchangeable attachments, including a whisk head for whipping cream or egg whites, and a small chopping bowl attachment for finely mincing herbs or garlic in small quantities, effectively turning one compact tool into several different pieces of equipment without needing separate appliances taking up counter and storage space. Because the motor and blade assembly are typically detachable from the handle, cleaning is fast and thorough, usually just a quick rinse or a spin through the dishwasher, compared to disassembling and washing every individual piece of a bulky countertop blender. It's also considerably safer for blending genuinely hot liquids compared to any countertop blender, since there's no sealed jar building up dangerous steam pressure, just an open pot with the blending happening directly inside it. Number 2. Mandolin slicer. A tool that home cooks often own but rarely use, largely out of fear, while professional kitchens depend on it constantly for one simple reason: speed and precision that a knife simply can't match no matter how skilled the cook. A mandolin consists of a flat frame holding a fixed or adjustable blade, and sliding food across that blade produces slices of an exact, consistent thickness in a fraction of the time it would take to achieve the same uniformity by hand with a knife. That consistency matters enormously in a professional setting, since evenly sliced vegetables cook at the same rate, ensuring nothing comes out undercooked or overcooked within the same batch, and it matters just as much for presentation, where dishes built from precisely, uniformly sliced ingredients simply look more polished and intentional than ones with visibly uneven cuts. Professional chefs use mandolins constantly for tasks like slicing potatoes paper-thin for gratins, creating uniform vegetable ribbons for salads, producing consistent julienne cuts for garnishes, and prepping large volumes of vegetables quickly during high-pressure service prep, where manually cutting the same volume would take significantly longer and introduce far more inconsistency. Most professional mandolins include an adjustable thickness dial, letting a cook dial in anything from a nearly transparent slice to a thicker plank within seconds, and many come with interchangeable blades for julienne or waffle cut styles, expanding their usefulness well beyond basic flat slicing. The reason home cooks tend to avoid mandolins comes down almost entirely to the exposed blade, which is genuinely sharp enough to cause a serious injury if used carelessly without the included finger guard, but professional cooks are trained specifically in safe mandolin technique, always using the guard and maintaining careful control of the food being sliced. Once that technique becomes second nature, a mandolin turns what would be a tedious, 10-minute knife task into a 15-second job, with far more consistent results than most people can achieve by hand, even with excellent knife skills. Number 1. Bench scraper. And that brings us to number 1. And the pick might genuinely surprise people who assume the biggest professional secret has to be something expensive or complicated. It's the bench scraper. This flat, unassuming rectangle of metal with a simple handle along one edge might be the single most versatile, most constantly used tool on any professional line, precisely because it solves so many small, repetitive problems throughout a shift that most home cooks don't even realize are problems worth solving. Its most obvious use is sweeping chopped ingredients cleanly off a cutting board and into a pan or bowl in one smooth motion, a task most home cooks handle awkwardly with the flat side of a knife, which is both slower and genuinely damaging to a knife's edge over repeated use. But that's really just the beginning. Professional cooks use a bench scraper to divide and portion dough quickly and evenly, to scrape down a sticky, flour-covered work surface between tasks, and to cleanly cut through soft, delicate items like fudge, polenta, or bar cookies where a knife would drag and smear the edges instead of producing a clean line. The flat, blunt edge is also genuinely excellent for scraping stuck-on residue off a cutting board or a hot pan's cooking surface without scratching it, and many chefs use the broad flat side to crush garlic cloves quickly by pressing down firmly with the palm, skipping a separate garlic press entirely and cutting out a whole extra tool and cleaning step. Its simplicity is precisely its strength, since there are no blades to dull dangerously, no motors to break down, and no small parts to lose or clean around, meaning it survives years of constant daily abuse in a busy kitchen without any real maintenance beyond a basic wash. It costs only a few dollars, takes up almost no storage space, and yet a professional cook will physically pick it up and use it dozens of times throughout a single shift, far more often than flashier, more expensive tools that get far more attention and marketing. That combination of relentless, everyday usefulness and near total invisibility to home cooks is exactly why the bench scraper earns the top spot on this list.